Hey everyone, it's the Stuttering Gamer, Evil C here. For a few of you that might remember me, I've returned with a new video. I know it's been literally a decade since I've uploaded something, but I've been thinking about making something for a while, and with the unveiling of Google's new Stadia service, I thought this was as good a time as any to make a quick impression and opinion video and give you my take on what could potentially be the future of gaming, or at least one potential branch of the future of gaming. Now, despite me being a very traditional gamer, I enjoy buying my games physically whenever possible. I like game consoles like the Nintendo Switch and PS4, and I have a gaming PC. Um, I I I use platforms such as Steam and whatnot. Um, the idea of streaming video games, much in the same way that you could stream a movie on Netflix, it is a very interesting idea to me. And I think it'd be silly to deny or pretend that that's not going to happen in the future. I mean, it's already here. It's already happened in the past. If some of you might be familiar with a service called OnLive from a few years ago, I have a little bit of experience with using that, and at the time, it worked. I thought it worked fairly well. The computer I was using at the time was, quite frankly, a piece of junk. It was overheating. It was garbage. But even that computer could use OnLive relatively well, and my internet connection at the time was pretty good. Um, and even before that, you could go back to ideas like the Sega Channel, for example, back in the 90s. And yeah, that was a type of streaming, or the Satellaview system for the Super Famicom in Japan. That was a type of game streaming. So streaming has existed for quite a while, but it's only now, within the last decade or so, is it really starting to become a feasible option. So I watched, like, I Google late last year. Google had this test called Project Stream. Some of you might be familiar with it. They were for people who live in the U.S., which I'm not able to. I was not able to partake in that test because I live in Canada. People could stream Assassin's Creed Odyssey from Google's data center, using any compatible hardware, using a Chrome browser. People were typically using a desktop or a laptop computer. And the reports that I read about it at the time, they seemed like the tests were fairly good. It wasn't perfect, but most people seem to be fairly impressed with it. Impressions were good. So that led up to this week's showing on Monday. Google officially unveiled the culmination of what Project Stream is, and that is Google Stadia. Now, as I said, Google Stadia is basically their version of, or it's Google's foray into the gaming industry. But they're not going to do it in the traditional sense. They're not going to have a box that sits under your TV. And they're not going to do it in a digital download service such as Steam does. Instead of having a box that sits under your TV where you either buy physical games or download games, or have a service like Steam where it's all digital games that you download, it's going to be 100% streaming. It's a service that Sony and Microsoft are currently dabbling in. I mean, Sony's already has a streaming service. It's called PlayStation Now, and Microsoft has a service that they're working on. It's called xCloud right now, or at least that's the code name for it. There's not a whole lot of details on that. PlayStation Now is already currently available. You can not only play that on PS4 and PS3, but you can also access that on PC. But Google Stadia is going to be available on PC platforms. It's going to be on Mac. It's going to be on smartphones and tablets. Basically anything that can run the Chrome browser. And Google did say during their conference that they're going to expand it to other browsers in the future. So I guess they didn't give specifics, but I would assume Firefox and possibly Microsoft Edge and maybe Safari and so forth. So I watched the entire conference. It was about 50 minutes long, I think. The entire conference itself, it really was kind of dry. It wasn't really that exciting. There were moments in it which were pretty interesting. Like, that's neat. Oh wow, if that concept actually works in the real world. Oh, that could be interesting. But it was a bit dry. I mean, for the first 10 minutes, it was just Google's CEO talking about how he's not really much of a gamer and talking about advancements in AI and neural networks and stuff like that. At one point, he did make a little quib about arguably the dinosaur Chrome game that you can play when you don't have an internet connection. That's arguably the most played game in the world, but we'll come back to that later. So at about the 10-minute mark, Phil Harrison, who previously has worked at Sony and he's worked at Atari after that, and then he worked at Microsoft for a little while. Anyone who's familiar with the gaming industry for the past decade would know who he is. He walked out on stage, and then they started getting into some actual substance, some actual details about what is Stadia and what can it actually do. What separates this from a traditional box that sits under your TV? What separates this from a digital download PC client like Steam, for example? A trailer in your Chrome browser for the latest, hottest game. In the example that they used on screen, they used Assassin's Creed Odyssey again, like they did with Project Stream. But it could be any game. It could be the latest Resident Evil, it could be the latest Call of Duty, it could be the latest Battlefield, it could be the latest Madden, whatever. After you watch the trailer, a little icon that says Play Now will pop up. And if that looks interesting to you, you can click on that icon and it will take you right into the game with virtually no loading, no download. Within seconds, you're writing the game. You can play it. You can sample it. That's, to me, sounds really cool. As far as I know, there's no current way that you can do that. The closest thing that we have to that today is going on to a digital storefront and downloading a demo of something. And even then, you still have to download the demo. That could be a few gigabytes in size. You could, and you're not playing it within 5 seconds. You have to wait for that download, and it's only a small, very, very, very small slice of the game. It's not the entire game as it was in this example that Phil gave. So that I thought is is a very neat feature. The second concrete example that he gave is I'm looking at my notes here. Sorry. Yeah, how I said like it's not a traditional box. You can there was a demo on stage how they went from a laptop. It was a Pixel book, a Pixel for it was a Pixel book, and then they jumped to a Pixel 3 XL phone, and then they jumped to a desktop PC, and then to a tablet. All fairly seamlessly, the same game, Assassin's Creed, using the same account. The game picked up exactly where the player left off on the previous device. So when they went from the Pixel book to the phone to the desktop to the tablet, it was exactly where they continued from the previous spot. So that is also a very cool feature. Now we have sort of seen examples of that. Microsoft, for example, there are some games on Xbox One and PC that are under the Play Anywhere banner. Like an example, Gears of War 4. If you have Gears of War 4 on PC and Xbox One, your progress is saved between the two versions. So if you say you're playing at home on your Xbox, and then say you have a laptop or like another PC somewhere else, and you go, like say you take your gaming laptop with you somewhere else, you can continue your progress on your laptop when you're away from your Xbox at home. But the idea of being able to play a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, say on your Chrome browser at home, and then say being able to play it somewhere else on your smartphone, that is a very interesting, very neat idea. Now, the problem with that is, something I should have probably said earlier on, Stadia is going to require, it's going to require a good internet connection. Google, at no point in the conference did they give specifics, like this is the minimum connection speed you're going to need for the optimal experience for Stadia. They didn't say that, but if you've got poor internet, if you're only getting like 1 or 2 megabits per second, Stadia might not be the thing for you. Again, that's just my speculation. They didn't give any specifics, but I've used internet that's that slow before. It can be tricky streaming Netflix on speeds that low. So trying to stream a very intensive game like something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then it's gonna also you're gonna have to have a large data cap as well. I would not want to use my cellular data plan to stream a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey if I was outside in the park somewhere, say, and I felt like playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey on my phone. I could see my data getting destroyed if I tried to do that. But hey, if I was on Wi-Fi somewhere, sure. The idea on paper is great. I love the idea. I love the concept. It's a great concept. And just, yeah, being able to jump from a laptop to a phone to a tablet to a desktop, all using a Chrome browser, all of that on paper, be able to pick up exactly where you left off, that's really cool. Again, it's a very interesting, very cool concept. I like it. Yeah, connection speeds are gonna play a factor. Google actually did show one piece of hardware during this whole conference, and that was their official Stadia controller. The controller itself, it looks like a combination of many contemporary controller designs. Everything from the Xbox One, the DualShock 4, even a little bit of the Switch Pro controller, all amalgamated into one design. It looks fine. Doesn't look anything wrong with it. It looks like a nice, modern, contemporary controller. The one really interesting thing about this controller is, unlike virtually every modern controller that connects with Bluetooth, this controller connects with Wi-Fi. And during the demo on stage, where they were jumping from device to device, the Wi-Fi connectivity is not only supposed to cut down on latency between the player's input and to what you actually see on screen when you're trying to play something, but it's supposed to also allow the device that you're using to know. It's to let the device and the controller know which device you're using in order to synchronize the controller with the device, so you can connect to it and game. That's interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I guess like through the device and your internet connection, I guess it's all going to work very seamlessly. So that's cool. There's also going to be a capture button on the controller, which, if you're familiar with modern streaming and modern consoles, all have capture and share buttons. The Switch, the PS4, the Xbox One, they all have capture and share buttons. So streaming and capturing and sharing content, that's going to be a very big part of Stadia. I'm not surprised by that. And of course, Google owns YouTube, and gaming is a big part of the content that you find on YouTube. So that's going to be that's one of the big features that they're promising, that they're going to integrate all of that in with Stadia, and they're going to make sharing your content, they're going to make that all like very seamless. So yeah, for big name YouTubers and people that love to stream all the time, that's should be great for them. So that's good that they're doing that. Google claims that their data center, right off the bat, it's going to support 4K resolutions at 60 frames per second with 8K being a possibility, and at 120 frames per second. That is something that no current gen console can do, and it's going to be very, like, in my opinion, it's going to be very unlikely that next gen consoles like the PS5, the next Xbox, I don't see them being able to do 8K at 120 frames per second. I don't see them being able to do that. So if Google can pull that off with Stadia, then cool. But I imagine to get that performance, you're going to have a very good internet connection. So again, your mileage may vary. And also, 8K displays are very uncommon in consumers' homes. Like, many people still don't have 4K displays, so 8K we're still quite a ways away, but hey, at least Google's preparing for the future, so that's good. It's good that they're forward thinking. One interesting feature that they talked about is this ability called state share. I mentioned how, like, most people are familiar with being able to stream video games. You know, streaming is very common. You know, you can watch people play games. You can watch people play games live. People record their gameplay clips and then they upload them. You know, to view. You know, days, weeks, months, or years later. You know, that's all fine and good. But this feature called State Share is like you could create a challenge within a game. Like say in a racing game, you get a really good time on this lap, and you want to challenge your friends and other people to beating your time. So you can make this state, and then you can create a link, and you can share this link on on YouTube, in text messages, on websites, on Discord, anywhere you can post a URL, essentially. And then anyone who subscribes to Stadia, you could send your friends, and you could send this link to the world, and you can challenge people, hey, I got this awesome time in this game, you know, try to beat it. You know, ha ha ha, I bet you can't. So, and then people can click on that link, and then they can go directly into that racing game, or that platformer, or that first-person shooter, or whatever, and try to beat your time. That was really cool. And during the conference, Dylan Cuthbert, who was one of the developers on the original Star Fox game way back on the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom. He is his studio, Q Games. They are making. They're currently working on a project that is designed entirely around this state share feature. They didn't give a title. They didn't give any other specifics. They didn't even say that it was Stadia exclusive. But since Stadia is not the only streaming service on the horizon, and it's not even the only streaming service technically available, it might get ported to other platforms. But for the sake of argument right now, let's just say it's just for Stadia at the moment, and Q Games is designing this new project with state share in mind. So yeah, that could be cool. Now, what's a platform without exclusives, right? Well, Google has thought of that, it seems, and they did announce the creation of one first party studio called Stadia Games and Entertainment. Um, Now, this would have been a good opportunity to actually show an exclusive. Would have been a perfect opportunity to show, like, hey, we're going to get really serious about first party development. You love Nintendo for their games, you love PlayStation for their games, you love Microsoft for their games. Well, we know that you love exclusives, and exclusives still, generally, to a lot of gamers, sell hardware. So, here's one really major AAA exclusive must have game that you can only get on Stadia. But they chose not to reveal any specifics. And I know the Game Developers Conference is supposed to be for developers, but at the same time, the media is watching, gamers are watching, the world is watching. It's was still a missed opportunity. They could have mentioned something. But it remains to be seen exactly what kinds of exclusives Google is going to make, and I think this is going to be this. I think the first party stuff, I think, is going to be extremely important for them. They can have all the third party games that they can get, and that will certainly be helpful. That's good. The more third party games they can get, the better. But for gamers like myself, for gamers that love exclusives, for traditional gamers like myself, we love our Nintendo exclusives like Mario and Zelda. We love our PlayStation exclusives like Uncharted. And our Microsoft exclusives like Halo and Gears. I personally, and I'm sure a lot of gamers would feel the same way as me, what exclusives, Google, are you going to have on Stadia? Are you going to have some amazing sci-fi first-person shooter franchise? Are you going to have a Halo killer? Are you going to have something like some cinematic, third-person adventure, sort of lighthearted Indiana Jones adventure like Uncharted? Are you going to have something like God of War? Are you going to have something like Zelda? Are you going to have a top-tier platformer like Mario? What are you going to have? Are you going to have? Are you going to try to get a? Are you going to try to make the next like big name fighting franchise? Are you going to try to have a Street Fighter or a Smash Brothers? Are you going to try to have your own mascot racer? Or are you even going to try to have, say, like a line of titles that are that are mascot driven, that are aimed more at the general audience, like sort of how like Nintendo has, or like what Sony has attempted over the years, like with Little Big Planet, and Ratchet and Clank, and Jack and Daxter. Like what are you gonna do on that front with exclusives? So I think they should have shown something there with exclusives. It's unfortunate that they didn't. I would have liked to have seen that, but there's still time. Stadia is young. It's not going to launch until the end. Oh no, they didn't. They didn't. It's not. It's going to launch sometime in 2019. So they've still got plenty of time. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen something on that front. The only aside from the Q Games project, the only game that they confirmed 100% was Doom Eternal. And I guess probably Assassin's Creed Odyssey will be on there as well, because they used that in Project Stream, and they used Assassin's Creed Odyssey during the stage demo. So it's probably safe to assume that Assassin's Creed Odyssey will be in there as well. Um, they did also show um, they did also mention on stage that they want to use like the power of the data center to be able to bring back um, like a local split screen gaming, and they gave an example. Sorry, they gave an example during the conference how this one technical demo they had. You had this like you had the main viewpoint, and then if you were playing as part of a cooperative game like with other players, you you could split the screen in half, and keep in mind, like, if you were playing locally with your friend, like, you'd have half the screen and your other friend would have half the screen. But because you don't have a console underneath your TV doing all the processing and having to render two different viewpoints simultaneously, and sacrificing a chunk of the system's power, it's using the data center. You could basically get full graphical fidelity and full frame rate performance on both screens. So that, again, I thought is a cool idea in concept. And then they took it a step further. They split the screen even more. So they had like, if you were playing a larger group-based game, like they didn't give an example, but I guess if you were playing on a squad-based game, or maybe if you were playing a game like Fortnite, if you were playing on a large team with, like, say, like 20 other people, you could have individual little video feeds of like all your teammates, say, at the very top of the screen. So like your first teammate, second, third, fourth, fifth, your 10th, your 20th, if you wanted to. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it was just a technical demonstration that they were giving. So you could see what all your teammates were doing. Like 20 would probably be like a little bit, maybe it'd be hard to keep track of 20 different screens. But like, say you were on a squad with like three other players, or maybe five other players. So you could have small windows of your squad mates 2 through 5 at the very top of your screen in a small window, so you could just see a little video feed, a live video feed of what they're doing. But at the same time, you've got full graphical fidelity and full frame rate performance on your screen, yet you can still see what your teammates are doing. And again, as a concept, I thought that was really cool. And because you're not tied to a box under your TV, you're not sacrificing any performance. But again, the major caveat of all of this, of Stadia, and not only of Stadia, it goes back to OnLive, it goes to PlayStation Now, xCloud, and any other streaming service, is your internet connection. How fast is your internet connection? If you suddenly have an interruption in your internet connection, your stream is gone. You can't game. If you tried to game on your phone and you were in an area that had very poor cellular reception, you wouldn't be able to play. You wouldn't be able to connect to Stadia and play. And again, if you had a connection interruption at home, you wouldn't be able to play. Um, Again, Google didn't give specifics on what their minimum recommendation is for your internet speed. You're also a user will have to take into account their bandwidth caps. So again, it's really going to depend on where you live in the world, your connection speed, the reliability of your connection. So Stadia and streaming in general, I don't think it's for everyone, but it's definitely, I think, where gaming is going. At least it's one direction where gaming is going. I don't necessarily think it's the only direction where gaming is going, but it's definitely going there. Movies and TV has already gone there. Like with services like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Instant Video. Sure, you can go buy Blu-rays, you can buy DVDs, but there's no denying that streaming is insanely popular, and it's only going to keep getting more popular because it's cheap, it's quick, it's convenient, and that's what people like. And if Stadia or any other competing game streaming service can be quick, cheap, convenient, reliable, then Stadia or any other service, they'll have a winner. The fact that Stadia will work with almost any device, like any 5-year-old, 6-year-old device that can just run a Chrome browser, that will greatly broaden its appeal. And even despite me personally being a very traditional gamer, like I said at the beginning, I buy my games physically whenever possible. I still greatly prefer traditional game consoles. I have a PS4, I have an Xbox One, I have a Switch, I have a Wii U, I have a PS3. I will buy a PS5. I will buy the next Xbox. I will buy whatever comes after Switch. I will build another gaming PC in the future. I use Steam. That's not going to change. I'm not suddenly going to throw all those out the window and go 100% streaming Stadia all the way 100% and throw all my physical games out and get rid of them. No, that's absolutely not going to happen. I'm never going to abandon the old ways, as it were. But at the same time, I'm a realist. I don't deny where gaming is going. Digital downloads will most likely overtake physical retail purchases if they haven't already. Streaming games is definitely going to be something in the future that will become more and more popular and become more and more practical. But it's got to be cheap. It's got to be convenient. It's got to be easy. And if it brings in new people into gaming, people that otherwise really wouldn't game, then I think that's a good thing, because like many people have said, and I completely agree, one of the largest barriers to gaming is the box, the hardware. Most people, they're not going to go out and buy a $400 PlayStation. They're not going to go out and buy a $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 gaming PC. They're just not going to do that. They won't. But their 5-year-old MacBook that they've already got, or the new budget $400 Windows laptop that they bought just for word processing and YouTube videos. And gaming is the last thing on their mind, that they bought that, but then they start seeing advertisements for Stadia, and or maybe they see a commercial on TV, or they see ads for like, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that they don't game, but they know what video games are. They know what Call of Duty is. They know what Madden is. They know what FIFA is. They know what they know what Battlefield is. They know what Fortnite. They know what Minecraft is. But either they don't have the console or the hardware to play it on. But there's still some of those people. They're still curious. They want to try it. So if a service like Stadia can come along and make it cheap, make it quick, make it easy to understand, make it convenient, make it seamless, and it works as it's advertised, for those people, I could see gaming greatly being expanded to people like that. And I think that's a good thing. It brings more people into gaming, and then who knows, those people might actually start checking out more games. Also, I see it as a very good cost-effective way to game. If you could just pay one subscription price, maybe, I don't know, $20 a month or so, $30 a month. Google didn't give any pricing details. They didn't give any specific launch date. They just said it's going to launch in the US, Canada, the UK, and most of Europe in 2019. And they're going to give more details in the summer. But I can see it being very cost effective. People who just don't have a lot of money, a lot of disposable income to spend on entertainment. People who they just want to maybe just dabble a little bit in gaming here and there, but they don't want to spend a fortune up front. They don't want to spend $400 on a console. They don't want to drop $60, $70, $80 on the latest Call of Duty or whatever to play. They've already got a laptop or a desktop. They've got a Chrome browser, or they've got a phone, and they don't mind just paying one low monthly fee and just streaming the game, having fun with it for a few hours, and then okay, that's cool. And then maybe a few months later they see some other game that catches their interest, or like I forgot to mention, but if you see an ad anywhere on, like, if you see a Stadia ad posted anywhere online, anywhere on YouTube, like a trailer for a game, and you're subscribed to it, you could click play now and actually go into the game. Those people, if they're subscribed to Stadia, after they've maybe played their initial game that they wanted to play, if they might see an ad for something else, they might jump into that game and give that a try. Oh, hey, this is actually really fun. Yeah, I like this. And then they might try something else and something else and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think the idea, the concept, it's got a lot of positives. I could see it being very accessible, being very user-friendly. If it expands gaming to a new audience, that's cool. I like that idea. I like the idea of gaming being very inclusive. I know two people personally that they are gamers. They love video games, but they're not in the best financial position right now. So I could see Stadia. If gaming was more affordable, I think they would play more of the big AAA releases. But having said that, it's all going to come down to your internet connection and where in the world you are and how reliable it is. So I think Stadia, it's a very interesting idea. Streaming is definitely one future of gaming. It's undeniable. It's coming. You know, don't be don't be don't be. I guess well, don't. Be, I was going to say don't be afraid of it, but I should say be maybe cautiously optimistic about it. It's always good. It's always good to question things. It's always good to be objective. But I guess try to approach it with some cautious optimism. At least that's how I'm looking at it. I'm not totally against it. I'm not 100% all gung ho for it. I'm looking at it with I'm looking at it cautiously, but I'm also looking at it with interest and intrigue. I want to see more of it. I want to see where it goes. I want to see, can Google actually pull this off, or will it just be, relegated to will it be relegated to the annals of the past, like OnLive? But if your internet connection dies, then at least you can always play the dinosaur Chrome game, right? Anyway, guys, that video went on way longer than I thought it would. I really hope you enjoyed my ramblings on Google Stadia. It was really nice to record something again. If one of you is one of my older subscribers, please leave a comment below. I would, I'm curious to know if any of you people are still around. If you're new to my channel and you're meeting me for the first time and you enjoyed my video, please leave a like or a comment. I'd really like to know what you thought. I do plan to get back into YouTube. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I want to start making more videos again. I don't have the best video setup. I don't want to jump full force 100% back into YouTube. I want to sort of feel my way around the modern landscape of YouTube and to see what it's like again. I've been thinking about some ideas. I'm working on one other video idea right now, and I did record one other project with a friend of mine a few months ago. I'll leave a link to it in the description. But anyway, yeah, it was really nice doing this, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing what I thought. Whether you agree or disagree or you're somewhere in the middle, I welcome all comments. Thanks again for watching. I'm Evil C, the Stuttering Gamer, and I'll see you later. Thanks for watching.